Atari is well known for many things, like video games, computers, and burying its secrets in the desert. What it's not well known for is pinball, but in the late 1970s, the arcade game giant decided to try playing the silver ball, and it created the biggest pinball machine ever. Welcome back to Kotaku's Complete Inbox. Today, we're at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, home of one of the world's largest historical archives of video games, computer games, and yes, pinball. It's one of the only places in the world where you can play a round of Hercules. As the 1970s drew to a close, pinball, in some iteration or another, had been around for over 200 years. They really took off in the 1940s after the end of World War II and the invention of the flipper. For the next 3 decades, pinball was the form of electronic entertainment. But pinball wizards around the world soon found themselves tempted by a new amusement machine: video games, starting with Atari's Computer Space and Pong. Once Atari was making tons of money off of its home and arcade games, it decided to try to get in on pinball too. To stand out against its popular competitors, Atari wanted to go big with its machines. Games like the Atarians and Middle-earth were wider than normal pinball machines, creating a large playfield. Middle-earth even had 2 separate play areas with 2 sets of flippers, which was a first. It was Atari's final pinball, 1979's Hercules, that took the bigger is better mantra to the extreme. At over 3 feet wide, 7 feet tall, and 8 feet long, Hercules is the biggest mass-produced pinball machine ever made. And it's not just that the table itself is big, every element of it is scaled up to giant size. The bumpers are huge, the flippers are more like whale fins, and the ball, well, the ball is practically a cue ball off a pool table. Atari's engineers couldn't exactly use standard pinball parts to create Hercules, so they had to find its components elsewhere. For example, the flippers are powered by washing machine parts. They also had to make sure all of the components were shock resistant because of the huge amount of vibration when that giant ball slammed into those huge bumpers. No doubt about it, if you walked into an arcade and saw a Hercules pinball, you'd definitely want to play it. Like, once. The problem is that while Hercules was an incredible feat of engineering, it was kind of a boring game. The playfield was simple, and the giant cue ball was, well, really slow. Pinball players wanted that rush of fast-paced action, but like a lot of big guys, Hercules didn't exactly have a spring in his step. Atari only made a few hundred Hercules pinballs, and today they're extremely rare. According to the website Pinside, there are only 20 locations in the world where you can go to play a Hercules machine. One of them is here at the Strong as part of its Pinball Playfields exhibit. In the end, Atari released just 7 models of pinball machine, and Hercules was the last. At the time it came out, the pinball business was declining fast thanks to, you guessed it, video games. But Atari's brief dalliance with the idea was worth it because it produced this gigantic piece of gaming history.